Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Gauntlet, where we bring you all the best NFL content here on the Sideline Sports Network. I am your host, of course, James Tatum. I'm joined with Denzel and JJ, per usual. And tonight's very special episode as we're starting our third season. We're going to be joined by former Miami Dolphin, Texas A&M Aggie, Richmond Webb. Richmond, thank you so much, man, for taking the time out of your week to join us here tonight.
Gentlemen, how y'all doing? I'm good. Appreciate the invitation, and I'm doing good. So it's Friday, it's the weekend. I ain't got no complaints. Y'all doing all right?
We made it through another week, man. So I don't know how much that's worth, but it's worth something, I know. So
take one day at a time, brother.
I'm just happy to still be here in one piece, I guess.
That's it. Okay.
It's great. It's an honor to kick off season 3 of the Gauntlet with you on board. So we really do appreciate you showing your face and spending a little time with us, sir.
I appreciate you guys too. I think one thing you got to realize sometimes as a player is, you got to show love to the fans. The fans show love to you. It's a relationship, and I always try to have a good relationship with the fans. So I appreciate you guys bringing me on. And I've been retired for a while, but it's always good it kind of helps keep your name out there and stuff like this. So I love interacting with people and this and that. So I was happy to do it. So thank you for having me on your show.
Hey, well, we're glad to have you with us, man. It's always good to talk to a former player to get more insight on what we don't get a chance to see every day. Plus, also get your perspective, since I know even though you may not be in the game, you're actively involved in the game. So we're definitely happy to have you on the show, for sure.
Okay.
100%. And Richmond, we'll start with your career. So you played over a decade in the league, spent a lot of time with Miami, spent a little bit of time over in Cincinnati. So, for you, when you look back on your career, being a 4-time All-Pro, being 7-time Pro Bowler, being on the all-decade team for the 1990s, for you, do you think that you have a good enough resume that you should be in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah. I think my resume speaks for itself. I mean, I definitely think I got the numbers. I'm not a guy that's gonna go like over promote myself, this and that. I leave it up to other people to make mention of that. But definitely, I played against some of the greats and matched up pretty well against most of them or whatever. So hold on, sorry about that.
Hey, James, I can't see it on Facebook. The show.
Okay, you got a face.
Yeah, we're good. Go ahead.
Okay. So like I said, and recently, I got another teammate that just went in the Hall of Fame, so I'm definitely happy about that, Zach Thomas. And I was going up for his induction into the Hall of Fame. And I went for Jason, I went for Dan. So, like I said, I think my resume speaks for itself. I've had a lot of people do articles saying that I'm deserving to be in there, this and that. So I think I still believe I got a legitimate shot. It's just taking a little time, but I don't sweat that. I just keep waking up and keep doing what I got to do. But I think I got a legitimate shot, and I think it'll happen.
Awesome. You played with who a lot of people will not consider is undoubted one of the greats in Dan Marino. But of course, you were with the man every single day, like, practicing and in the film room and everything like that. All we ever saw was on Sundays or the occasional Monday night. What was it like working, playing alongside a guy like Dan Marino? What kind of captain was he in the locker room? What kind of leader was he? What kind of guy personally was he?
Yeah, that's a great question, Giselle. When I got there, I think one of the things that I truly benefited from was going to an organization like the Dolphins at the time. They were known for winning. They were known for consistently making it to the playoffs, this and that. So Coach Shula was a coach that ruled with an iron fist, but at the same time, you had guys like Dan Marino, Mark Duper, Mark Clayton, and that's who kind of set the standard for everybody. When you seen how those guys worked in practice, how they prepared on and off the film, watching the film, and how they conducted themselves off the field. And it was an expectation that, you didn't want to be the weak link. And if you wasn't ready to go, they was going to get you out of there. So the standard was set and it was already high, but I learned a lot of stuff from just not reinventing the wheel, but patterning myself out to guys like Dan Marino and stuff like that, how to conduct yourself, how to be a professional, this and that. So I'm indebted to the guys that kind of came before me, but I was fortunate to go into an organization where the structure was already set, and I just had to fall in line. So I benefited greatly from that.
Awesome.
It's interesting you talked about, how players conduct themselves and how players, go about being a pro. And a huge topic today is player safety. As we talk about players with the injuries that they've suffered and the recovery times, and knowing that you played in a league that was very physical, very somewhat violent. And do you think that the measures that the NFL is taking now is for the betterment of the actual NFL as a whole? And if not, what would you think is something you would think they need to do to try to find a way where it can please the player's safety as well as please, let's say, fans in terms of the grittiness and the violence of the game that they want to have?
Yeah, overall, I think they've done a pretty good job. I think especially when all the information start coming out about CTE, the concussions, and you start doing studies on players that were deceased and finding out they were having these type of injuries, and sometimes it would cause you to basically act out of character, but then it kind of reeled things in and made sense based on they were suffering from something that you really can't study until after you pass away. So some of the stuff they have put in place for player safety, I know helmets. I know back when I played, we went 6 weeks of two-a-days. Now it's no more two-a-days. It's, a very limited number of padded practices, this and that. So I think they have done things in that aspect. One of the things that I think recently came up, I was watching ESPN and NFL Network, was, and I don't know if they will change it, but as far as the roughing the passer from defensive linemen, they showed how, and I understand that they got to protect the quarterback. I don't have an issue with that. But someone was really ticky-tack that, could continue to, you got an offense stopped and then you get a little nitpicky penalty like that and you stand out on the field. So I think it's a balance with everything. I'm not saying you get a free shot at the quarterback. I do think you protect the quarterbacks, but it's got to be warranted or general. So I don't know if they'll start reviewing some of those plays when, guys get sacked or they think, hand to the face or whatever. But I think that's one that kind of really stood out to me that probably could be corrected or something like that, because I know it doesn't matter whether you're offense or defense, when you feel something is unwarranted or whatever, it's really frustrating when you've worked that hard to get off the field and then, it's taken away from you like that. So I try to look at both angles, but that's one thing that in recent news I heard that I think they should tweak. I don't know if they will, because like you said, quarterbacks make so much money and they might just say, well, hey, we'll deal with it. Just can't tell how they're going to respond to that.
Yeah, that was a really good question, JJ. So kind of picking up on that, your Miami Dolphins, Tua Tagovailoa, was one of the biggest storylines in the league this season. So what were your whole thoughts about that situation? How do you think the Dolphins handled it? Did they handle it the right way? And where do you think the league is going to go from here with player safety, looking back on that situation in particular?
Yeah. I think when you see a guy that's an upcoming star, I mean, when he was in there before the concussions and when he was playing, I'd say definitely top 10, maybe top 7, 8 quarterbacks based on his production on the field. So when I went back and looked at the concussions, looked like most of his was from when he got tackled and slang his head, his head hit the ground, and that's what caused the issue. So one thing I've heard he's working on this offseason is taking judo and learning how to fall or whatever. So I do think that I think toward the end of the season, like the first one, I think it was misdiagnosed. I think when they were playing Buffalo, he possibly had a concussion because I saw him got up, but you looking at it at the game, like, man, it looked like he dazed a little bit. But they said, they take you in the tent and they check you out, and they said no, he didn't. And he came back and played and this and that. Then they finally, the next game was the Bengals game, and when he got tackled and his hands kind of froze up like he's paralyzed, that's an image that's imprinted on not only the teammates but everybody on TV, and that's not a good look for the NFL. So I knew definitely then they were going to take steps or measures to make sure he was out of concussion protocol before they would let him back on the field. And so he got back out there, and then I think what was it, maybe around Green Bay had another one, and they shut him down. I thought it was a chance he could come back at the end of the year, but they said I just think the NFL kind of shut that down and say, let's just make sure he's all right and come back next year. So I think that's one of the good things the NFL is doing, is really focusing in on player safety, because I know for the Dolphins, when he wasn't in there, it was a big drop off or a huge gap between when he was playing versus, one of the backups was playing. A lot of times playing with our third string quarterback. So I think he'll be fine. The thing I like about Tua is every time he's been injured or had something to overcome, he really works hard in the offseason to prepare for the next one. So if he can get this fixed to where, he kind of learns how to fall or learn, you can't make every play as a quarterback. So sometimes you got to know, hey, just get down and take the sack or whatever, protect yourself, because it's a long season. If he can learn that, I think he'll be fine.
Of course. And when you look at the league today versus when you played, what are some of the biggest changes that you've seen to the league? Do you think these changes are positive changes? Do you think they're negative? And is there anything of today's league that you wish could have been implemented during your playing time?
No, I like the era that I played in. So, I just dealt with the hand I was dealt. I know it was probably a little bit more physical. We went through a little bit more this and that, but that I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I really had a good time playing against the competition and the guys that I played against. The biggest thing I see is when I came to the league, most teams were a run dominant, heavy team, this and that. We were one of a few teams that just, we had Marino, so we aired it out. We weren't going to run the football a lot, this and that, but that's what it was. But now you see more teams now running the spread, this and that, and you've even seen a shift to where wide receivers are considered more valuable than running backs. Now you'll see 4 or 5 wide receivers taken in the first round, where running backs were the thing back in the day. So that aspect of the game I see has changed. But just far as throwing and trying to get the scoring up and stuff like that, I think quarterbacks are putting up more passing yards, but I think that's caused more teams are throwing it and kind of implementing the spread offenses and stuff. So I think it's good for the league, but that's the biggest change. I think more people are throwing the football based on when it was just more pound and ground when I played back in the day.
So sorry, go ahead, Jay.
Okay. We talk so much about and just as analysts, like across the board, about player safety, but not enough gets talked about player integrity. If you feel like you can't go, and going back to the Tua situation that you were mentioning, when he took the hard hit before the Bengals game, and then when he got thrown down and his fingers locked up, and America just froze, right? Do you feel that there is not enough emphasis on player integrity? Because we all talk about we got to look out for the players, their safety, but no one's really encouraging these guys like, hey, if you can't go, it's okay, So what are your thoughts about that?
I think it's different today, and I'll tell you why. I think back when I played, if you got dazed or whatever, you typically tried to fight through that because you didn't want to be considered weak or soft or whatever. But now, what they have in place is if they think it's any inclination that you're not right or you might be in a day space, they take your helmet, you go in the tent, and I think you got to. I don't know what the questions are, but it's a series of tests that I think they do to go and check in. And if you can't play, they take your helmet. So I think they have done a better job with that. Whereas, we had the little smelling salts or ammonia caps. You get popped pretty good. You might get days, but you're like, nah, I got to get back out there because I got to get this guy back because he got me that time. It was just a different mentality. And I think when this was first implemented, it was a little bit tougher, but I think players have adjusted to where you don't see many players like get upset or, get pissed off. I think the only one I saw was recently was Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. He had the high ankle sprain.
Right.
If you don't go in there,
I still don't know what they gave that man.
Well, if you don't go in there and get your ankle X-rayed, you can't play anymore. So he was pissed off about that. But that's one of the extreme cases. Most of the time, guys kind of fall in line with it. But yeah, that's the one that kind of stood out to me that I saw recently.
Now, you actually, as a player, a former player who's been through the day-to-day operations of this game, not just from the preseason training camp, but even in the playoffs, you have today's society where people say, oh, they making millions of dollars, so they can tough it out to just get through there. But when you look at some of the people that you hear about their stories of how they go through chronic health problems, like Antoine Randall, saying he has a little bit of inability to walk upstairs with 2 feet. LaRon McClain has been having nightmares going to sleep, given the fact of all the injuries he sustained as being a fullback in this game. As a former player, can you kind of maybe talk more about what we don't understand as fans and why somebody saying money can solve anything could not be the best statement to make when they talk about players and injuries they have during playing NFL?
Well, and let me say this: it's not all fans, but I hear you do hear that a lot, and I think one of the issues is that when I played, it wasn't social media. Now you have social media, you have podcasts, you got YouTube, you got the NFL Network. So it's like football is covered 24 hours a day, nonstop, and so people crave information, and it's like the more you give them, the more they want, and a lot of times they go based on what they hear. I hear a lot of people on TV, analysts or whatever, they'll call a guy a bust or this and that, and then next thing you know, people tweeting about it or saying like whatever comes out of this guy's mouth is the truth, and I'm like, that's not always the case. So I'm kind of glad I didn't play in this area with social media, this and that, because I see some people they go too far, and sometimes you got to reel them in and let you know, hey, you're a man or whatever, but I'm a man too, and you're not going to disrespect me. So most of the time it's okay, but every night you get that extreme fan that think he knows everything, and you got to reel them in. So I think it's too much information, and you got the sporting, the betting, and stuff like that. Everybody got this and that, and if you betting on me, and I'm supposed to go out and score 2 or 3 touchdowns, and I get hurt in the first quarter, and that messes up your parlay or whatever you playing, this and that, and you was counting on that money, that can have you feeling some type of way. So it's just, people.
There's literally people that send players sending death threats because, oh, you didn't give me fantasy points this week. Like
it's
kind of crazy.
Some people take it way too serious, and you got to be careful. All players don't always handle it the correct way. You know what I'm saying? Some people like, hey, if you want to take it there,
right,
I'll pull up. Let me know where you're at. So it's just like you can't come at everybody like that. You know what I'm saying? So it's just.
And another thing is, people on social media, they're saying this stuff. 99% of them would not say it in real life.
But it's very interesting that you bring up sports betting on this show.
Here we go.
Because actually, someone that dabble in the sports betting as well, but I can understand where I have a little bit emotional about losing money, but at the same time, if a player's hurt, a player's hurt. Yeah, and if a player at the end of the day, also, players are trying to win. They're not thinking about, in the heat of battle, I got to get 2 more points if it means that the team could lose. And so at the end of the day, you got to kind of disassociate from it when in terms of like a personal investment and realize that you're betting on them on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not their fault that they don't do what you want them to do.
Right.
That's based off of your decision. So I do understand you on that one.
And I'm not saying all people that bet that way. I think
I agree.
part of it is if you have a competitive spirit and you know if everything would have went right, you would have won it. So it's not like just because you didn't win, you're pissed at the players. Everybody reacts different to it. Like you said, if you take that into consideration, that's different. But some people don't. They be like, "Oh man, I had my rent paid and you screwed it up," and you be looking like, "Bro, I don't even know you."
I feel like it should be a joke. Like, be like, "Come on, man, you could have got an extra yard." I mean, just saying, you could have got an extra yard.
You know what I'm talking about, man.
just joking like that. Because at the end of the day, it's if you choose to. I'm a full big believer in you have to own up to all your choices. So if you choose to spend money on betting on that, that's not that person's fault. If they choose to not do what you want them to do,
That's true.
But there are extreme circumstances. I can recall back in '94 in the World Cup, Andres Escobar for Colombia scored an own goal and cost a loss versus the United States. They shot that man to death because of that. Because there was bettors that were betting on the game and they deemed him the cause of the loss. So I mean, it sucks to say, but I just wouldn't really put it past anybody nowadays. Society's just gotten that much bad.
That's when I knew world soccer was serious. I was in Miami and I heard about that and I couldn't believe it. I was like, that's a whole nother level. But yeah, I remember that when you brought that up. Yeah.
I was saying, Mr. Webb, when you bring up the fact of, sorry to keep it, but you bring up the fact about somebody saying they spent the rent. Why did you spend your rent? I don't get that. Like, why would you do that?
There has to be a line between sports gambling. You gotta still be a responsible adult.
They said, "Why you didn't give me that extra yard?" They ain't worried about that. They said, "You should have got me that extra yard." They don't want to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
So Tyler Ingram chimes in. Shout out to Tyler. He says, "How happy are you for Zach Thomas getting inducted into the Hall of Fame this year?"
Oh, that's a no-brainer. I mean, I played with Zach probably 5 years. He came in like '96. We're both from Texas. He played at Texas Tech. I played at
A&M. Rival Tech.
And just I just know him as a person. This and that, and this a guy that's no more deserving than him. So I'm definitely happy I'll be at his induction.
All right. You guys got any more questions?
I'm all good, brother.
I'm all good, even though I will something he asked earlier, we talked about earlier, kind of plays into my situation with my quarterback, Lamar Jackson, in the sense of his injury was somebody saying that he was not playing because he was trying to threaten the Ravens to get money, but he was going through injuries that we don't really know about.
And that's true. And I think people look at it, they know how valuable Lamar Jackson is to the Ravens and know how electric a player he is. They know, you miss a tackle, it's a touchdown with that guy. I mean, he's one of the top players in NFL. So when he can't be out there helping your team win, a lot of time that's frustrating. And a lot of time when it takes longer than what fans have in their mind for you to get back and get help and get on the field, then sometimes some people question that. But it's just the competitive nature. People want to see their team win, go to the playoffs, and win the Super Bowl. So it's just the nature of the beast.
It's like you said, it's information where people are going based on what they hear. Oh, he'll be back in 2 weeks. Oh, no, it's another week. Oh, no, it's another this. It's too much information. And they have your mind wandering. And when the mind wanders, that typically is the worst thing that happens a lot of times. So.
That's it, brother.
All right. Richmond, we really want to thank you once again for joining the show. Is there anything you would like to promote? Any podcasts, books,
questions for us?
Any projects that you're working on, or anything you want to say?
Not working on a project. I normally do a show. It's mainly about Dolphins. Wednesday night we go live. It's Finside the NFL, and it's with my co-host Reason and Ball at The Real Reason and Ball Game. And if you want to, you can follow me on Twitter. It's at Richmond Webb, and just good luck with whoever your team is. I'm pulling for the Dolphins, and And free agency is going to start, so it's going to get exciting. But just want to thank you guys again for having me on your show. And maybe we can do it later, but I appreciate y'all bringing me on.
It was a pleasure, man, and you're always welcome to come back anytime you want.
All right. Y'all have a good one.
All right, man. You have a good weekend.
All right.
That is awesome.
Yes.
All right, guys. So shout out to Richmond Webb. That was former Miami Dolphins offensive lineman that just joined the show. We're going to take a short break, and when we get back, we got to get into some sports morons, baby. The Gauntlet is your place for everything NFL here on the Sideline Sports Network every Friday night, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Guys, so usually we start off shows with Sports Morons of the Week. This time we did a little different because we had our interview with Richmond. Once again, shout out to Richmond for joining the show. So I want to kick us off here because the NFL Players Association, they did some report cards for teams around the league. So they graded teams based off of a number of things. Locker room culture, organizational culture, how the locker room is in terms of like cleanliness and things like that. How the teams are treating their family members, all kinds of stuff. There's two organizations that I just don't know what to say. I was kind of left speechless.
Yeah.
So the first one is the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals allegedly, according to the NFLPA, so I'm sure there's some players in the NFLPA from Arizona. Allegedly, they are saying that the team is deducting money from their paycheck for using the team cafeteria or the dining halls or whatever. How are you a professional organization that's worth billions of dollars, that is generating all this sales and revenue in the NFL, and the players are what's making you this money, and you're taking money out of their check? I can't take the Arizona Cardinals seriously as an organization. And then the second one, the Jaguars. The Jaguars allegedly had a bunch of rats, like literal rodents, disgusting creatures running around the locker room. They said they found these big rats inside the laundry hampers. I just don't know what to say. If you're a professional organization and you're making all this money, hire a cleaning service or players, coaches, staff. Clean up after yourself. There's no reason that you should have rats and stuff running around the locker room. So for these report cards, Arizona, Jacksonville, what are you doing?
Question.
What's your question?
I wish we could talk about the Arizona thing because I don't really see a problem with it. I'll be honest with you. Just because that's kind of normal. When I worked at the hotel, I had to pay extra $35 to get free food, you know? And like I worked at Macy's and they're multi-billion-dollar business. I had to go to the cafeteria and pay for the food. You know, I'm just thinking like, you know, they got to make money. And I don't really really understand the issue, because at the end of the day, I see it everywhere. And
That's
I
funny,
think
Birdman.
I mean, that's just me. I'm not disapproving your moron of the week at all. I'm just saying, from my perspective, I guess I'm a moron because I ain't got no problem with it. I'm gonna be honest with you. Because
Well,
I'm
these
just like,
players are what's making them the money.
so are the
I
employees
don't
at
understand.
the other
Like,
company. Like,
they're the only team that's doing it, though. None of the other teams in the league are doing that to the players.
Well,
That's why it's an issue for me.
But my
players,
question is, let me ask you a question: is what if the team cafe had a restaurant in there and they paid the restaurant, and the restaurant's part of the business, the company, they're part of the organization? It's the same deal. You know, like, you see what I'm saying? Like, it's the same deal.
well,
Like, it's like,
I kind of see it as, these guys have spent their entire lives with a discernible skill that's legit, and they parlayed it into like literally the biggest stage, and they're under a lot of pressure, immense pressure to perform week in and week out, year in and year out, and all the while most of them are worried about if they're even going to have a roster spot next year. I think they should be at least entitled to a plate of free eggs and bacon.
but
That's just my standpoint.
I mean,
true, but it's a
Kyler
capitalist
Murray,
society.
he's 5'0" You got to blame the organization for this
but the
because
thing is,
they're not
isn't
giving
the
the guy vegetables so he can grow.
But
So
isn't the guy with the roster spot making almost like six figures? Because I thought the minimum salary in NFL is like 100,000. Like, six figures is.
Well, also considering the week
doesn't
in and week
matter,
out
bro.
injury
It's
risk.
just
I'm not
really
discrediting
cheating.
your take,
No,
JJ, because I see the side.
No, I get where he's saying, like, because maybe it's the fact that you're shocked at it, but I'm just like, $100,000. I'm gonna be sweating to pay for a meal. You know what I mean? Like, especially when you can invest that money, you can turn it to other different things and stuff. And it's like, I guess I'm looking at it from my standpoint. I'm like, the rats part, you got the rats, because that's just nasty. Like, that is just absolutely garbage, downright trashy, nasty. Your stadium needs to be upgraded, whatever the case may be. Whoever the case, I was a player, I'd be like, hold up.
How are you guys a professional organization and you can't even pay for mates? Like, just clean after yourself. But anyway, do you guys have some sports morons?
Mine was going to be mine was going to be the Jags. I'll just add on real quick that's just unsanitary, as hell, because rats also carry disease. I would not be shocked if a couple of players outright said, I don't care if it's a breach of contract. I'm not risking my life setting foot in that locker room around a bunch of dirty ass rats that carry disease, that carry infestation. And rats multiply like hell. So like come on now. Like, you got to nip
one
this
of
in
them.
the
There's
bud.
tons of them.
It's a ton. We've all seen Bad Boys too. I'm just playing. But anyway, yeah, seriously, like, rats, come on now, Jags. You got to do better. Y'all just made the playoffs, man. So I know y'all got some revenue. Y'all can't hire a working man or somebody. Come on now.
Trevor Lawrence, if you're watching this, I know there's a very small chance. I know you're probably not watching this, but if there's a small chance that you are, do not re-sign with the Jags organization. You need to put in your contract, if you're going to re-sign with them, stipulation, you will not play any games if they do not get rid of the rats. But that's what I would do, Trevor.
But what's interesting about this is that the common rule and common, like, law or unspoken rule in business or anything, like people trying to go to like a venue or whatever, is the minute a scandal or something like this happens, that's the time to go back there, because they're going to clean everything out. Like when the Carnival Cruise that had the power out there, people were peeing all across and everything like that. It was a huge, big scandal. The next people that went on that cruise, everything was top-notch to the T. Clean everything, because, they have to get their reputation back. So, ironically, it's like, logically, you'd be like, you know what? I'm not going to that place again because they got rats or something. But if a company wants to stay in business, if people want to continue doing, they're going to invest and do what you guys want them to do. So you could be like, you know what? I'm going to continue signing with y'all, but the first infraction, I need this and I'm getting out of here. Because then it leaves it up to them if they're really, because they have no choice but to turn this around. This might be the time to go down there. I'm just saying. It's weird. I'm sorry to be the devil advocate on this stuff, but I'm just saying, like, I done seen some stuff. Okay? I done seen some stuff.
Oh, man.
All right. Are we good with sports morons now?
I'm all
Tyler,
good.
no,
I'll
wait. Tyler said
got
he
no
said
more.
Aaron Rodgers. I don't want to know about your Bob movements and your darkness retreat. Listen, like the darkness retreat thing with Aaron Rodgers, like I wasn't even really paying attention to what was going on. Like I just was reading my phone one day and I saw that it was doing it. So I was kind of confused as to what it was. But Aaron Rodgers as a player, I love him, but as a person, this guy's just a little bit of a weirdo. Well, let's move on to our next topic. So shout out to JB Ellis, who is covering the NFL Combine. John and I were supposed to be there, but something came up. So I gotta just say, this news is about Jalen Carter getting an arrest warrant and being accused of reckless driving and racing, which led to the death of one of his former teammates. Former Georgia player was killed in a car accident very, very recently. I want to say within the last month or so is when that happened. So very, very tragic about losing the former teammate, obviously. But this is just something that we see more and more with these young athletes. They're doing stuff, being a little bit dangerous, being a little bit reckless. It was not reported that he was drunk driving or anything, which I don't think he was. I think he was just kind of being reckless and everything. But at the same time, man, I think you got to be responsible. You got to be responsible with what you're doing, how you're handling yourself. Do I think this is going to affect his draft stock? No, and not whatsoever. And he did release a statement saying that he expects to be exonerated and, all the charges against him being lifted. That remains to be seen. But I would say it seems pretty likely. If he was going to be in serious trouble, I think we would know. But I think he's not going to lose his draft stock. I think he's still going to be a top 5 pick in the NFL draft.
This really bothers me because, it's like, didn't you learn anything from the whole Henry Ruggs joint? And that one ended up in someone losing their life as well. Now here you are as a top 5, like at least Ruggs was already in the league, right? But here you are as you just won your second straight national title, and you are a projected top 5 draft pick, and it's like you haven't gotten there yet. And even if you did get there or whatever, like, come on, you have got to stop putting yourself in these situations. Stop putting yourself in this position. Like, I don't get it. Like, and it's been happening since the dawning of time. Like players, college and pro, they get this bulletproof mindset, and then stuff hits the fan, and it's a big hoopla on the news. And they're having to fight charges. Alvin Kamara going through it right now, because he didn't put himself in a bad spot, and you get these athletes with this bulletproof mind frame and thinking, that they're going to get away with it just because they got some money. Remember Dante Stallworth and what he did? And he actually got another shot in the league. So, something's got to give. Something's got to give. And I don't know if it has to take – I think more and more teams could afford to, or just more athletes in general, experienced athletes, go down to these colleges, and hit them with a Coach Prime speech, let them know, like, hey, you don't need to be doing this because this can happen after this time of night, or you don't need to be put in this position, or what, and so forth. I think there has to be more and more people that have to come down and talk to these athletes about the consequences and ramifications for putting yourself in that position. I don't know what's going to happen, if he's going to be exonerated or not, but at a minimum, he at least should be chastised for putting himself in that position in the first place. You're about to be a top 5 pick in the draft. You should be in bed every night by 8 or 9 p.m. Period.
Tyler says the assistant coach challenged him to a race as well. So I did not actually know that.
Me neither.
I think, Jay, I hear your sentiment and I understand it big time. But realistically, how many 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds are realistically going to go home every night or on a weekend at 8, 9 o'clock? And I kind of go out again. I often go back to when I was a kid. I remember people drag racing at 19, 20. I remember seeing cars going long times an hour, and it's like,
doesn't make it okay.
No, but the thing is, people live, and I will say, we all have
There's
been.
other ways to live, JJ.
No, but again, I'm not going to discount that, but I'm not going to act like driving is something. I'm not going to sit here and say that they weren't. We had to think about those other decisions like that. When you're out there, sometimes they could have been on an open road. They may not have thought that they would have got caught. It's not right. But my point is, you try things, you fail, you fall up and you go down in this world. Unfortunately, this for them was a worse situation. It was not as if they were Henry Ruggs. The only difference between him and Henry Ruggs is they weren't drunk. They weren't drunk driving. They were driving, unfortunately, too fast. And again, when we were younger, I even remember even OGs like in my parents' days where they played a game called Chicken. You know, you ever played Chicken before, where you running across the beltway trying to test your speed to dabble against cars. Now, you know, it's just I say that to say it's like it's a bad look for him, and it's like if he's able to still pass it, it's just one of those things. If I had a young man that was 19, I'm like, bro, if you are approached with a situation where your friends think this is the best choice to have fun, try to find another way to have fun, but still be out there to kind of test them because you do that. You're 19, 20 years old. It's your first chance of freedom. It's not, I don't necessarily think it's a bulletproof mentality. Think you can't get caught. I just think it's a thing that we think we know better. We always think we know better. I mean, can you think about how many things that you did back in your day that you look back on now and be like, dang, I was stupid as hell thinking I could get away with that.
Oh, yeah, all the time.
But did you know, right? But at that time, did you think that they probably thinking, okay, it's 1 or 2 o'clock at night, no one's out there. God bless my soul, because I'm about to put myself out there if my parents are still watching this. Okay, I'm gonna tell you that now. But I've driven a car extremely fast before when I wasn't supposed to. But I thought I assessed everything, and thankfully I got away with it. But after that, that was it. But I'm saying, like, the whole point is I still did it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. The only difference between me, you, and JT and a lot of others is we weren't projected top 5 picks. And then also consider this. I get being young and making mistakes. We all done did it, right? You know, but there are just some things
you're in a position where you don't want to even risk losing this opportunity that you have in front of you.
Because if you make that mistake, it could be a fatal one you can't come back from.
All right, guys, we're gonna move on to our next topic.
Hold on. I have to change my point because my mother has been watching the show, and she definitely would just checked me like check. She said they were all drinking. Check your facts. I tried to text and send you that as a message in the chat too. So, mom, you're right. Strip it from the record. She's checking me on this show. There you go.
You can't say anything to your mom, man. That's for sure.
And she followed this. She's very avid on the news and she's up to date. And yeah, I got to be accurate. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Thank you, Miss Mama JJ, for tuning into the show. Really appreciate it. So, guys, Lamar Jackson in the Baltimore Ravens standoff continues. Is Lamar staying with the Baltimore Ravens? Are they going to trade him? The latest news is that the Ravens, if there is no deal ahead of Tuesday's deadline before free agency, they are going to place the franchise tag on him. I'll be really quick. Lamar, I just think you have to let it go, man. Let it go. All these reports about, which there's been conflicting reports. Some reports say that it's not true that he asked the Ravens for a fully guaranteed contract. The NFLPA is saying that they want him to, quote unquote, stand his ground. Listen, Lamar, you are not getting a fully guaranteed contract. You're a great player. You're a league MVP. You're one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And yes, you deserve to be paid a lot of money, but you can't use Deshaun Watson as a base for this. Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns are in a position where if they don't restructure that contract, the Cleveland Browns are going to be in cap hell. They're not going to be able to do anything And the Cleveland Browns, as we well know, are not a well-run organization. The Cleveland Browns were the only team that was willing to give that to Deshaun. And that's why he ended up going there and not to the New Orleans Saints, the Atlanta Falcons that were also interested. They're like, we're not going to give you that. That's ridiculous. The Cleveland Browns are not going to set a new precedent. None of these other quarterbacks, even Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, any of the next quarterbacks to be paid, none of them are going to get a fully guaranteed contract. You might get $150 million guaranteed. You might get $200 million guaranteed. You're not getting all of it guaranteed, brother. It's not going to happen. Just let it go.
Yeah. Go ahead, JJ. This your team. Go ahead,
JJ.
bro.
You take it. It's your team.
I think this is a classic case of what Richmond was just talking about. Too much information. I mean, you're hearing reports that they want this. You're hearing reports saying, no, he didn't say this. And then you're hearing reports saying, no, he just didn't say this. I mean, it's too much information. And to that point, I do agree. I don't think a fully guaranteed contract is reasonable because at the end of the day, if you understand business, you understand that business is always going to do what it's going to do. And no business is going to feel the need to spend a quarter of their cap on a player. And you have a player who has 5 AFC Championship games, 3 Super Bowl appearances, 2 Super Bowls, and he don't even got it. And at the end of the day, if I had to say, oh, you know what, I'll give it to one person, he's the only person I could think of. Because again, 5 AFC Championship games, 3 Super Bowls, 2 Super Bowl wins. That's the most productive quarterback in the last 5 years. There's nobody above him. There's nobody on him. It don't matter about yards, nothing. He's got yards, wins, Super Bowls. So if he don't got it, you ain't got it. I think if you really are, if there is a true validity in the topics and it's all about the guaranteed part, there's nothing wrong with $200 million guaranteed. Period. There's nothing wrong with $200 million guaranteed because I'm pretty sure that it comes with incentives. I'm pretty sure, and people keep saying he's trying to secure his bag for the future and he needs to try to get the most money. My brother, if $200 million guaranteed is not enough to start the securing of your future, we might need to figure out what exactly is considered securing your future. Because at the end of the day, $200 million, I did this as just a joke, just to see as a joke. Let's just say a person made $50 million and they had a $5,000 mortgage. That's 50,000 years of paying that mortgage and $5,000, and you would have still, that's how long it takes to pay, which is $50 million. That's a $5,000 mortgage. Bro, $200 million is definitely enough to secure your future. So for people that sit there and say, go for the most and everything, you are showing that maybe you're not a full business person, because if you are a business owner and you have to generate money and continue doing this stuff, you're going to understand why the Ravens are playing hardball. Now, granted, the Ravens are in some turmoil right now. You know, they got a little bit going on. But in this contract situation, I'm just going to take a step back, and I think, you know what? Because of the back and forth and then just the comment and the really good insight that Richmond gave, I'm going to just wait and see what happens. If he signs, he signs. If he doesn't, he doesn't. At the end of the day, I don't know anymore. I, at the point, really just wanted to kind of come to a close so that way people can move on, and also the Ravens can move on and actually have a direction, whether he's with the team or not with the team. So that's kind of where I am with it.
I think also they may be considering the future as far as what other players are they going to play? Are they going to pay? You know, because you never know who may strike out and have an awesome season next season, and they're in a contract year, or they got like 2 years left and they want to extend them. You know, you got to have enough to pay the other players at the end of the day. And you know, when Tom Brady did that in New England, and that pretty much was Bill Belichick's adopted way of being a general manager. You know, you see that the unselfishness and seeing how, okay, well, you know, we have to have a team. Just like you said, you mentioned, you know, Pat Mahomes' accomplishments and everything. He absolutely deserves the money he does, you know. But also at the same time, you know, Lamar Jackson, like he has only 1-2 playoff wins, you know. So has he exactly earned that fully? One, that's it. You know, he beat the Titans. Oh no, he lost to the Titans. He beat them. My bad. It was a revenge game. The second time he won, you know. But yeah, you only got one playoff win, and the Cleveland Browns, they paid Deshaun that money. Also, keep in mind their fan base think that they actually fleeced the Texans in that trade. So you can't use the Cleveland Browns as a marker point. You can't use them as like a standard. Okay, the Browns are the Browns. Period. All right, the future is going to see what's going to happen with Deshaun Watson. But as far as Lamar Jackson, hey man, it's time to start getting realistic because I know you're going to get tired of these franchise tags. But like JJ said, $200 million ain't bad, man. And maybe you get paid more if you had a little bit more behind your resume. I understand you got an MVP, but you also got one playoff win. And
I don't think it has anything to do with his resume. Lamar is one of the best players in the NFL. He deserves to be paid a lot of money.
But
go ahead, JJ.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I'll let you. I just want to get this.
No, I'm good.
Quick out. NFLPA. Why aren't you pushing for any of the other guys to get these fully guaranteed contracts? Why are you just fixated on Lamar? Why is it Lamar's contract the only one y'all care about on trying to get fully guaranteed contracts? If you want everybody to get fully guaranteed contracts, why aren't you doubling down on all these other guys who are signing on extensions that are not fully guaranteed? There are. What if Aaron Donald was up for a contract extension, or what if Tyreek Hill? You ain't want him to get his. Y'all are staunch on Lamar for this because again, it's a quarterback-driven league. But why not talk about Jalen Hurts getting fully guaranteed or Joe Burrow? Why just Lamar?
Well, here's the problem. Like it's like I said. It's like what Jay said. The Browns are one of the worst run organizations, not just like right now, in history of the NFL. They've always been known for being the fools of the NFL, which is why we're their only team. They're the only team that was willing to give Deshaun Watson a fully guaranteed contract. I don't think anybody in the NFLPA understands that. They think that this is supposed to be a normal thing. No. If you've been paying any attention to the NFL, you know that the Browns are ridiculous and they do stuff like this. So for them to give Deshaun the guaranteed money, despite his ongoing situation that was still going on, they were the only team that was going to do that. I don't think anyone gets it. I just don't.
He damn sure wasn't getting that money in Atlanta or New Orleans or Carolina, whoever else was suiting him,
Or any
only
of the
Cleveland
31 teams in the league. Any of them.
He damn sure wasn't getting in New England, and he would have played for Belichick. I mean, yeah, only
He
Cleveland.
wasn't going to get it on 31 teams in the NFL. There was only one place he was going to be able to get it. And he got it. So good for him. But not good for the team. That team is going to be in cap hell if they need to restructure their contract ASAP. But guys, we got like 5 minutes left. I got a really good non-sports topic. I know we've talked about like all sorts of stuff. I know this is more of like a quote unquote serious one, but I really want to get into this conversation because I think this can go a lot of different ways. What characteristics, traits, or whatever you want to say, what defines a high value man or a great father or anything like that? High value man, great father. What kind of traits, what kind of things stands out the most to you guys?
I think it depends on the context here, and I also think that this should we ever get a woman, the next woman guest that comes on the show, this deserves a part 2 because I'd be interested to hear from her side of the fence. But for now, I'll just say, well, if you were to ask probably the average woman, right, they're gonna say like, oh, well, his job, you know what I mean, or how much he makes a year, what's his house look like, what's he driving, you know what I mean, things of that nature. Now, you ask a man, he may say the same thing. He may also say, okay, well, is he a good father? Is he a great person? Could he,
hold on, Jay.
Go ahead.
My mom texted me and saying she agrees with you, and I think she just said I would love to come on, so she wants to come on the show one day.
Excellent.
Excellent. Well, we'll leave that door open for her.
Mm-hmm.
It's there, Mom.
But again, I think if you ask the average man, half of them might lean toward the whole monetary thing. The other half may say, hey, that depends on character. Because high value morally, it may be fair to say is more important than money because at the end of the day, you can't take that with you. But I digress. That's just my point. JJ, what you think, man?
secure. I think secure, and I say that as a whole umbrella, secure in where you are in your life about what you want to do, what you may not be happy about with your life, what you want to change. I think a secure man is a man of integrity, a man of high value, a man of understanding. It just encompasses everything because we often seek security and we view security as a very, very high value trait in life. You want to have your bank account safe. But I think a secure is a great, if a man is secure, that man is someone that recognizes his strengths and also understands his weaknesses and uses his weaknesses as not a hindrance, but a more of a motivation to try to overcome and become an even more secure man than he already is.
That's a great point, and I'll piggyback off of what you just said there at the end, looking at the things that you do well, the things that you don't do well, and not using it as a hindrance, but to make yourself better. Listen, for me, everything is about accountability. Everything is about accountability. I can't stand it when you see not just a man, but really any person blaming someone or something else, or blaming a situation. Oh, this is not where I'm supposed to be. I'm not supposed to be where I want to be because this person did this to me or whatever. Like, always having an excuse, always having something to blame instead of saying, hey, you know what? I got a lot of stuff holding me back right now. I got to take a step back and look at it. And we gotta regroup ourselves and try to turn the situation around. So I think for me, accountability in every situation, I think that's probably one of the top traits I would say for a high value man.
Man, that accountability is a trait that is lost sometimes today. And I think accountability, people are frowned upon, people are scared of it, and people feel like accountability, they actually take accountability personal, which you should, but you should kind of look at it a different way as you want to be better. You want to be the best that you can be to live the best life you have. The only way you could do it is that you can recognize where you made mistakes. So that way you can know, like, you know what? I made a mistake because I did this, or I was thinking I can do this because I can get to this. That wasn't the right way. Let me take some accountability for realizing that I didn't have the right mentality. So I need to learn what the right mentality is, or learn the right technique to be able to accomplish whatever task. Accountability is huge.
Tyler, he wants to chime in here. So he says, for him, someone who takes responsibility for his own life and the lives of those around him. He knows that he has the power to make things happen. And he knows whatever it takes to get the job done. That's great stuff, and that's wise words coming from a man that just became a father in the last year or so. Yeah, looking out for your family, looking out for your spouse, doing whatever it takes to maintain a healthy family relationship. I definitely think that's also something that you need to consider when you're having these type of conversations about being a high value man, being a great father, somebody that your child is looking up to. So there's definitely some great stuff from our man Tyler.
My mom made a great point too, as well, to that point. She said generations have different values of what a high quality man is, which is very true.
Right. And as far as, money and everything, like, obviously, if you're having to borrow money from people all the time to pay certain bills, like, I know tough times and stuff happen, but you got to do what you can to maintain your life. But everything is not about money, man. It's not about, you can have a lot of money and still be trash. The money is not what defines the man. If a man is doing all these things really well, then he'll put himself in a position where he can make a lot of money. But the money, I don't think that's the most important thing at all.
The man defines the man.
The man defines the man. Absolutely. You guys got any more thoughts before we shut it down?
I'm good, man.
Me too.
All right. We want to once again thank our man Richmond Webb, who joined the show earlier. We want to thank all the viewers who continue to support the Gauntlet. Thank you to the Sideline Sports team. JBL is doing a fantastic job covering the NFL scouting combine out there in Indianapolis. Don't go to sleep, guys, because you never know the next event Sideline Sports is going to be covering. NFL draft coming up. You never know. You might see some of us out there. You don't know what's going to happen. But we want to thank everyone for watching the show tonight. And we will see you guys next Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Till next time.
All right, guys.